So I've noticed something quite prominent amongst the pole dance community and definitely within myself across the 1.5 years that I have been pole dancing. It's something that I think affects all of us, and it really has a big impact on our enjoyment of pole dance. The thing that I've realized is pole dancers are way too hard on themselves. We somehow expect ourselves to learn new tricks that we are taught in class or we try in practice sessions. And this mindset makes it pretty easy for us to feel bad about ourselves. Pole dancing is the first sport that I've done where I've felt this sense of pressure to progress within it. And so I think that pole dancing definitely has something about it that brings out that sense of pressure. I suppose this is the nature of performance or tricks-based types hobbies or sports. In the past, I've been way too hard on myself when it came to pole dancing, and I've seen it heaps amongst other pole dancers I've met. But too much pressure just leads us to feel down on ourselves, unmotivated to practice, and just not enjoy it anymore. And when it gets to this point, we forget why we started in the first place. To enjoy ourselves. I'm guessing that's the reason why most of us start pole dancing. Pushing ourselves to do moves that we're not ready for, which I've also seen heaps with pole dancers, can also compromise our safety and lead to injury. And I've had multiple injuries from pushing myself to do moves that I was not ready for. Safety and enjoyment should always come first, but it is easy to forget. I think we need to be more mindful of how our thinking affects our experience of pole dancing. There have been moments when I started progressing to intermediate levels that I used to feel nervous before going to class or bad about myself afterwards because of the unrealistic expectations I put on myself to progress fast and to be good. I know I've definitely had to keep my thoughts in check to make sure I'm enjoying myself every moment I'm pole dancing, as that is the reason I started pole dancing and fell in love with it in the first place. So far it seems to have worked. I am way more kind to myself when it comes to pole dancing, and I can say 100% that I enjoy it way more now. One way I've done this is by setting realistic expectations for myself. So I make sure I only try tricks that I know is generally within my skill level, and being okay if I don't get it straight away, which is most of the time. And I've learnt to just leave it for another time to try again. Even though you really want to get it straight away and it's really hard to do this at first, it just makes it so much more enjoyable. For example, you might just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to try an invert today, and the only thing I'm going to work on is tucking my knees to my chest, not actually going into the full invert. And then that's probably more realistic and you'll probably achieve that and you'll feel good about yourself. I know this way of thinking can be hard to do for some of us, but I have every faith that you can also think this way if somebody like me who has been a perfectionist growing up is able to do this mindset shift. So I thought I would practice what I preach and show this today by selecting random moves from TikTok to try for the first time. I will be selecting tricks that appear to be generally within my skill level. Hopefully by seeing a true representation of what it's like to learn new moves from another pole dancer, you will also be reminded that it's okay to not get moves straight away. Or at all for that matter. Let's face it, some of the moves out there, some crazy hard moves, will never be achieved by some of us, and that is okay. If it means that you're going to save yourself from injuring yourself really badly or just destroying your enjoyment of pole dancing by pushing yourself to learn it, then I think it's worth it to just leave it, just put it in the files. My hope is that I can encourage others to be more kind to themselves within their hobbies, or any endeavour they take on for that matter, so you can remember to focus on the process, not the end result. I know this has definitely been beneficial for me, and I hope you can join me too. Here's my first attempt of the Stargazer, which is considered a late beginner move by some. Even though I would consider myself an intermediate pole dancer, I still don't always get beginner moves straight away. Never underestimate beginner moves and the purpose they can serve, no matter what level pole dancer you are. They are always handy to go back to revisit basics, and since you are most likely able to do them, you can use them to remind yourself of what you can do, which can reboost your confidence and enjoyment of pole dance. When you first try a new move, you are merely getting the feel for it. You are working out the sequence of steps, which leg goes where, and adjusting the level of pressure to put on each contact point. So don't feel bad for not getting moves straight away, as it is truly a process. Just a side note on contact points. We all know they are essential to hold ourselves up in a move. But the tricky thing is that it will be slightly different for everyone depending on their body shape or flexibility level. You'll know best how to adjust your body by feeling what feels secure for you. It's just another thing that makes pole dancing challenging, yet equally rewarding. This is an example of where you just so happen to try a move for the first time that may be similar to something else you've done before, or you have all the necessary skills to get it on the first go. Getting a move straight away is the lesser experienced occurrence, but it certainly can happen, and it gives you a nice little rush of dopamine. It can be a real boost to your confidence, so I do suggest, if you feel in a slump with pole and feel you are not getting anything, go back to basic moves you know you can do to get that uplifting feeling again. Just to remind yourself of how awesome you are with just how much skill you have built along the way. I personally think we don't take enough time to enjoy the moves we do know and are instead so focused on new moves. This can definitely lead us to feeling unfulfilled and down on ourselves at times. This is a prime example of trying a combo that is just a little more challenging than what we can do. Of course, attempting more challenging moves is essential for progress, which most of us strive for. But if possible, try to choose things that are just the right amount of challenge, rather than much too challenging. When choosing new moves to learn, it is a fine balance between challenging yourself and being way too hard on yourself, trying to do moves beyond your means. I know it's hard to do, but if I really can't do a move after a while, I let it go and save it for later when I might have picked up a few more skills. This has happened to me many times, and looking back, I do think leaving tricky moves for later was a great choice, because when I tried it again, I found I could make more progress with the move in a much more safer and enjoyable way. If you ever come across a move you thought you could do, but ended up finding it to be too hard, I encourage you to try to also leave it for a later day, even though this can be hard to do when your sight is so set on getting it within one class or practice session. After each attempt, you are making adjustments each time. I find it really helps to give yourself a few minutes break between each attempt, just to think about what you could try differently, rather than jumping right into it again and tiring yourself out or getting frustrated. I also find it really helps to film yourself trying the moves. During this break time, I watch over the video of myself attempting the move to really evaluate what changes I would try to make the next time around. Looking back at my attempt at this combo, something I could have done when trying this out is just focusing on one move of the combo each time. When you try a whole new combo all at once, it can be a lot to digest. I kept starting the combo from the beginning, so it didn't take too long to get tired. It sometimes is more effective to just try the moves from the floor first, before taking all your energy climbing into it. Then after you have checked you can do each individual move one by one, try combining 2 moves at a time. This method of trying it from an easier start point from the floor and doing things one at a time can really save a lot of frustration and energy. In this particular example, I decided not to continue to attempt the combo because sometimes it is just better to save yourself the injury or frustration that comes from repetitively forcing yourself to get a move you were just not ready for, but perhaps could be in a few days, weeks, or even tomorrow. You may find yourself ending up in this fetal position quite a lot. I like to call this a safety landing because both legs and hands are on the pole and your head is tucked in, so you land on your back rather than your head. I cannot stress this enough. If you want to do upside down tricks especially, or any trick in general, make sure you know how to land first. It's so important to feel confident landing in upside down moves and know basic moves really well to save your landing, such as inside and outside leg hang, upside down crucifix, and an invert. This also relates to the idea of making sure you can do prerequisite moves before attempting a new move. For example, before trying a leg hang, make sure you can do an invert solidly. This serves to mitigate frustration by filtering through moves to choose ones appropriate for your level. You will know best what feels safe for you. Even though I had a mini heart drop moment here, where I had let go of my hand and slid down a few centimeters, I felt I could still hold this move as I had done this many times before. If I had been tired or if this was the first time doing this move, I would have probably thought it best to stop or at least have someone to spot me. I just had to call it a day with this move, and you know what? I didn't feel like I had failed after this pole session at all, and I do think it comes from a mindset shift. As a result, I enjoyed myself despite not being able to achieve all the moves today. Mindset shifts aren't easy to do, and they come about after many small experiences and moments in your life. It is not a linear process either. You will always have good and bad days in pole. But I know that if you are mindful of when you start to not enjoy pole, then overall you will get better and better at identifying why this has occurred and think about how you may be able to get around it with some of the strategies I use, or perhaps some you come up with on your own. One thing to remember is that everyone is in the same boat. From experience, we all really want to get better at this very hard sport, and it's easy to slip into frustration. I hope you are able to find your enjoyment out of pole dancing and can maintain this love over time.